All right, here we are. This is awesome. This is going to go down in history, right along with the invention of the wheel and the first flight of the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. This is the first ever recording of the podcast. And Lauren, you're the incredibly lucky that forever in all eternity hereafter, it'll always be the very first podcast E. So congratulations for that.
I'm honored.
And
Thank you.
anything else that you ever do for the rest of your career is going to pale in comparison
This
to
is
this.
it. Yeah.
This is the high water mark, right? So, um, all kidding aside, we're really glad for you to be here. I'm excited for it. You've got a really cool product. It's a really cool brand. We're excited to be working with you. But what this is about you and your story and your brand. The idea of the podcast is that we're telling the origin story of these superhero founders of these superhero innovation brands, right? So, want to hear a little bit about how we got here and how your brand came to be, and how everyone else can benefit from the awesomeness that it is. So, I don't know where you want to start there, but it's a cool story to hear, and I think the world needs to hear it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm jealous of your podcast name, the Podcast. It's so perfect and convenient. It's kind of like as if my last name was Pork and it just worked out that way. Um, but thanks for having me on. So I guess I'll start from the beginning of Porking Good and how this came to be. Um, First of all, I didn't come from the food industry at all. I came from the travel and hotel industry in Miami Beach. I was director of revenue management and marketing for 15 boutique hotels. But the segue into this was that I had given up carbs and sugar many, many moons ago, back in about 2015. And that was a lifestyle change for me for good. I managed to lose 120 pounds and reverse my pre-diabetes. And at the time, there was very few options on the market that would help make that diet sustainable. But there were pork rinds, which naturally don't have carbs, and I was buying them and honestly thought they were disgusting. They had no flavor. They had this horrible cardboard like texture. But I did find myself crushing them up and using them as a breading substitute. So I could still make my favorite foods like chicken fingers and breaded fish. And just had this kind of epiphany like, I think other people would appreciate the convenience of this, and just started getting all of these ideas of how I could change pork rinds. And somehow convinced my husband that we should give up our home in South Florida, we should give up our careers, and we should move to a tiny house in the Midwest to bring our bills down and go all in on reinventing pork rinds as we know them.
Wow. So that's
And
kind of like Field of Dreams, except instead of
yes,
building the baseball field, you built the pork rind business
yes,
then.
yes,
So,
yes. Huge risk, left everything, moved to this teeny tiny house, and started porking good out of our basement in 2018. I had called around every pork rind manufacturer in the country and finally found one in Wisconsin that would give us a chance, and all my crazy ideas and making pork rind crumbs and making all these crazy flavors. And we did. And I didn't know anything about retail, but I knew about the online world. I knew about e-commerce. So we started out totally online, which seems to be opposite of what most brands do. And we launched with our pork rind crumbs, which is a zero carb, gluten free breadcrumb substitute. Put them up on our website, put them up on Amazon, and sure enough, they took off. People love the convenience of it. People were sharing recipes, and we just had this crazy viral organic growth. No paid advertising. It just started taking off to the point that a USPS rep came to our house because we were shipping so much. And we brought him down to our basement. He's like, "This is porking good." And we're like, "Yes." And we just grew and grew and grew from there. We expanded into the actual bagged pork rinds, and we wanted to do all of these flavors of traditional potato chips, but without the carbs. or like white cheddar popcorn, um, and that's what we did. So they were a true alternative to those snacks that we were craving. And honestly, it was an easy sell because I am my own audience, and I was literally just making what I wanted to eat myself, and other people were loving it. So fast forward, in 4 years, we had become our manufacturer's biggest customer, and he was 81 and ready to retire, and ended up offering his entire manufacturing business to us. So once again, we took a huge risk, moved ourselves and some of our employees from Ohio to Wisconsin, took about a year to get the funding together, and acquired our manufacturer's business. And it was one of those things, to be honest with you, as a company, we weren't ready for that. But we knew that the bigger risk was not doing it, because, one of the big guys would buy them out, probably shut down the plant, and Porking Good would be gone. Everything we worked for would be gone. So we had to just go for it before it was our time, make it happen. And we closed on that deal 2 years ago, May 2022. So we went from, sales and marketing and distributing to actual manufacturing. Now we've got a 42,000 square foot USDA facility in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're making 14 different flavors of pork rinds. We've got all these 5 flavors of pork rind crumbs. We've got a seasoning line. We've got something really crazy on the way, but we've done exactly what we set out to in just reinventing pork rinds, and all the flavors, heavy on seasoning, which I always thought was a common problem with pork rinds in general, just no flavor, not enough seasoning. We've been avoiding certain ingredients like MSG and maltodextrin, and just keeping them as clean as possible, and improve the texture. I didn't want that cardboard texture or that break your teeth, so we cook them in their own pork fat, and they're very light and fluffy, melt in your mouth, kind of unlike anything else on the market. And yeah, it's working. And with this whole transition to manufacturing, I became the only woman pork rind manufacturer in the whole country. And it's just been a crazy, wild, pedal to the metal ride since 2018. And it just goes to show you how weird life is. Because if you had told me 15 years ago, when I was in hotels, hey, you're going to be living in 2024, you'll be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, running a pork rind manufacturing company, I would say there's literally no way in hell that could happen. It's physically impossible for my life to go in that direction. But here we are. Here we are.
So logically, the next step would be that you just start raising all of the pork too, right? And you go into animal husbandry.
I don't think we'll ever get to that point. I mean, talk about vertically integrated. Have a farm in the back. No, I don't think we'll ever go in that direction.
But you vertically integrated much earlier on in your life cycle as a brand
Oh
than
yeah.
99% of the brands out there,
Yeah.
which was,
And that first year, once that happened, when I say that was pure chaos, I mean, every day I was in a state of panic, just figuring things out. And we went from 6 employees to 28 overnight. We took on existing business and private label business, and it was just so much to learn and jump and dive into. But now looking back, it was the best decision we could have ever made, taking that controlling our own production and scheduling, and
you
it's
know,
just kind of enabled a huge amount of growth over the past 2 years. So
and your product is, you were really put yourself in position to be in the right place at the right time, right? Because you were ahead of the curve with lower carbs, gluten free,
yep,
no sugar or low sugar, right? All of these attributes that everybody is looking for right now.
hmm
You were there in 2018, and now you're vertically integrated, so you're able to capture. So I guess what it comes down to is, because you took that risk or multiple risks that other people didn't take, you put
yep,
yourself in that position. But I mean, I guess it goes to show you that innovation can come from anywhere, right? Because you would, like, if you had asked me what, like, how you would innovate a pork rind before I saw your product, I would have a hard time coming up with it. But you've got birthday cake pork rinds, right? So like
yeah,
that's one way to do it, right? And but so I guess talk a little bit about, I mean, your story is awesome, but the product itself, you have all of these flavors. It makes sense that you started with potato chip flavors and superimpose them into a different vehicle that's
Yeah,
naturally no carb, right?
yeah.
But where do you like how do you develop those flavors? How do you come up, because there's everything from birthday cake to jalapeno cheese to super spicy. It's like do you have like an intense pork rind flavor development chamber?
I wish I did. No, I mean it's our own ideas. We've got a great relationship with our seasoning house, and we call him and tell him our ideas. He rolls his eyes at us, and then he just develops it. And a lot of taste testing. The dessert pork rinds were something we wanted to do from the beginning. And the faces we get from everybody is like, "What in the world are you talking about? That's disgusting." But it just works. It's like that perfect salty sweet mashup,
Yeah.
like a chocolate covered pretzel. It just works, you
Well,
know?
and it's way healthier than a chocolate covered pretzel because there's
Yeah.
1 gram of sugar somehow,
Yeah. So it
and it
gives you
doesn't
that
taste
sweet
like that.
fix, but it's not, you're not getting the sugar you would be getting from other snacks. So it's we're basically the Ben and Jerry's of pork rinds at this point is what we
All
call
right.
ourselves. Yeah.
That's a good analogy. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, we're very much in skew hell, so we have to kind of hold ourselves back from developing, and just focus on what we've got going on.
Do
Um,
you do seasonal and limited time products? Because I would think that there could be a pork rind for every season. You could
right.
have St. Patrick's Day pork
So
rind and
we've thought about it, and we've went into some of these flavors with the intention of them being limited time, but then they take off, and we do so well with our variety packs online. So now all of a sudden we can't get rid of any flavors because we're selling all of them in variety packs.
yeah.
So everything that started out, which was supposed to be short term, is now just one of our forever items. But I'm not opposed to a pumpkin spice pork rind.
Yeah,
You know, fall is
obligatory,
coming up.
right? That's
Yeah,
obligatory, right? But Christmas season, I would think that you could have Christmas flavors and all
yeah,
kinds of wacky stuff, and people would buy it all. The thing is that it's all using the same base material, right? And you
right,
control the means of production
right.
on the base material, so it's genius. And then can you? So this was a really cool product that you have. So you do a bunch of seasonings too, right?
Yep,
So safe to assume that a lot of those are the same seasonings that are going on the pork rinds anyway,
yep.
but you can do whatever you want with them. But is this the first real beer seasoning that I can buy in a powder form?
I believe it is, and it truly does taste like beer. We've made beer cheese out of it. We have the bourbon seasoning too.
Yeah,
That's really good if you want to try making like a bourbon roasted onions for on top of a burger, and just really unique. Yeah, the seasoning started out with our pork rind flavors. People love them so much they wanted to sprinkle more of it on, and then just evolved into, ooh, this is different. I mean, everything we do is just with the intent of being completely different. Nothing you
that's
typically find on the shelves. Yeah,
that's where innovation comes from. Is
yeah,
it too soon to talk about the puggets or
yeah.
the are
Let's
those
talk
still?
about it.
All right,
Let's talk
so
about it.
this is the chicken pugget,
Yeah,
right? Which is one of the coolest names. It's not as cool as the Pod podcast, but it's like up there
close. Yeah.
amongst the coolest names. So, what is a chicken pugget?
So this has been a dream since day one. The number one thing people make with our pork rind crumbs is chicken nuggets or chicken fingers. So we wanted to figure out how to use our crumbs as a breading system at scale. So the puggets are a pork rind breaded premium chicken nugget, frozen, that you just stick in the oven or the air fryer. And they're so good, and they're about half the carbs of a typical chicken nugget would be, plus gluten free. They're
Awesome.
porking delicious. So those are about to launch in the next week, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're almost out of time because the antique hourglass is out, but really glad to talk to you. We're really excited to be working with a brand like yours. We're all about innovation at Pod, and your true innovation in a category that needed it more than most, right? So, where are some places where people can buy your product now if they want to go out and find it?
Well, you guys at Pod Foods actually just are launching us into Albertson Safeway in Northern California, also Dash Mart in Texas. You can find our crumbs in Sprouts Market. You can find our pork rinds in the Fresh Market.
Awesome.
A little bit of Walmart business just launched, so we're going to Tractor Supply. So a lot going on across different channels.
Congratulations.
Thank
All right.
you.
Well deserved.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. See you.
See you.